Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with me, your host. My name is Chad Medved. This is my show. Appreciate you being here as usual. If you would like to support the show in any way, it is much appreciated on my end. And there's a couple ways you can support the show. The first way is the free way. The free way, all you got to do is take a second and rate and review the podcast that you are listening to right now. If you're on Apple Podcasts, scroll down. There's an option to leave a couple of kind words and a 5-star review. And if you're on Spotify, you could scroll down and leave a 5-star rating. And if you take the 2 seconds to do that, it is a huge help for me. And that's the free way to support the show. Now, if you want to drop a couple of frog skins, spend a couple of ducats, throw me a couple coins, I am putting out brand new podcast merch. It is available for pre-order now. It is a funny ass picture of me in third grade. If you're interested in it, go to my Instagram at I'll Call You Right Back. It's a quick $25 bill for a piece of history immortalized on a Comfort Colors tee. Very cozy, and it's a good design, to be honest. But that is the way to support the show if you want to throw a couple of bucks this way. But another way to support the show and kind of the segue into this week's guest, I am ramping up for a live show. You know, if you've been listening to the podcast, you've heard me talk about it, I'm sure. March 31st at Bottle Rocket Social Hall, I am throwing a City of Innovation live event with me, and I am accompanied by none other than John Chalkowski from Odd Pittsburgh. We are throwing this show to illuminate all the interesting innovations that came out of our city. Everything from the Big Mac to the Mr. Yuck sticker to the roll of aluminum, to the water heater, all kinds of wild shit that I'm positive that Yins have no idea about. And we are, we're going to put on a hell of a show. I appreciate it. If you wanted to support the show, if you want to come and hang out, it is a $10 fee. You can go to Bottle Rocket PGH right now. There's a show tab up top. Click on that, scroll down to March 31st, and buy yourself some tickets. I believe that over half of them are sold right now, and you got a week left. So if you want to grab them, grab them. I'd love to sell this thing out. Let's pack this place in. We're going to educate the Yinzers of our town about some of the wild things that have been created here. You know what I mean? Like, what's better than finding out the Big Mac was created in your hometown? One of the most poisonous things in the world, created right here. But we all know we love a Big Mac. I'll eat 2 of them right this second. But I'd feel like shit the next morning, but a Big Mac is not too bad every once in a while. That being said, next week on Friday, March 31st, 8 p.m. at Bottle Rocket Social Hall, I'm throwing this live event, so there will not be a podcast next week. Just to throw it out there, there will be no podcast next week. And I've been burning the candle at both ends. I've been running myself ragged, redlining it, whatever expression you want to use. But I need to take a week or 2 off and kind of recoup, regroup, kind of give myself a little mental health break. And I've been nervous about this show. I'm throwing this show with John. It's going to be crazy. John from Odd Pittsburgh is the type of person where he doesn't, I'm sure that dude never studied for a test. He has a photographic memory. He could pull factoids out of his head that is, it's mind-blowing to see. The dude brings stuff over. Whenever we have a podcast, he brings over binders of materials, and he does not open them, and he still is just able to access all this information. So this show is going to be a hell of a time. It's going to be super fun because he's bringing a whole group of things that I don't even know about yet. I know some of the stuff that we're going to talk about, and it's badass what we're going to talk about. You got some sports, you got some innovation in medical technology. We got some just innovation in weird objects. Just wild stuff to learn about. We're going to do this at Bottle Rocket. It's going to be a great time. Friday, 8 p.m. There ain't nothing else that's more important in the city. You know what I mean? $10 for a ticket. That's a fucking steal. Bottle Rocket has a bar there. You could have some libations, have a couple of sips on a Friday night, watch a good show on a Friday night. $10 to get in. That's nothing. Tickets, again, are on sale. Bottle Rocket PGH. You could scroll down on the shows tab to March 31st, grab yourself tickets there, and I hope to see you. I really hope to see you. And I'm sure my guest this week hopes to see you, because this week I sit down with Chris Copen, who is the owner of Bottle Rocket Social Hall. So, if you don't know what Bottle Rocket is, it's an indie arts bar venue that is just, probably the most unique place I've ever been. You walk in there and it looks like your uncle's dream sports bar that he would want to build in his basement if he could, 70s. In the 70s. That's what I'm saying. It's a time capsule, really. But Chris reached out to me. He was like, hey, man, I would love to have you on, and I would love to, put on a live podcast with you. Who other would I want to do it with than Odd Pittsburgh, obviously? The dude fascinates me. It's going to be a good show. But, I bring Chris in this week, and I want to learn about Bottle Rocket. You know what I mean? I've been seeing it being posted by everyone. Rick Seaback's there. I see Randy Bauman posting it. I see a lot of comedians that I follow posting it. And they are just doing, they're doing some good stuff over there. You could go on their website right now and look at their whole monthly calendar, and they have something for everyone. His slogan for Bottle Rocket is the best show in town 6 days a week. And I feel like that is the absolute best way to describe it, because if you look at this calendar, one day you're going to see Bad Movie Bingo. One day you're going to see a karaoke night. One day you're going to see a DJing party by Ari Cole. One day you're going to see a City of Innovation with me and Odd Pittsburgh. There's all kinds of fun stuff to do at Bottle Rocket. And Chris is, a fascinating dude. I just posted on my Instagram story that this is probably going to be, in a top 10 list of my favorite podcasts. I was really blown away by Chris's story, by his, drive, by how he just has found a way to make some shit happen. The dude is 24. He is determined, and he is executing on a well thought out plan, and he's doing it with some style and some class. He's doing it in a good way, and I'm really, really excited to be a part of it. I'm excited to be able to work with him and his team over there at Bottle Rocket, and I would love to have you come to the show, or any show. Just check out their calendar. I'm throwing one March 31st for the last time. If you want to grab tickets, bottlerocketpgh.com on the shows tab, or you could click the link in my bio on Instagram, and they are available right now. So I will stop beating it into your head, but without further ado, episode 238 of I'll Call You Right Back podcast with Chris Copen.
Telephone.
Hello?
Telephone.
I'll call you right back. Call you right back.
Telephone.
I'll Call You Right Back podcast. Have you done anything like this?
No, not long form.
Never done a podcast?
It's funny, one of our employees just interviewed me on his podcast for a college final.
Really?
Yeah, I was using it as practice for this.
Nice.
So,
this is very low pressure. It's not really
I've definitely gotten much better at talking about this just from doing it more.
Yeah, when did this even start?
Well, there's two answers. Bottle Rocket opened in May last year. We got the building in February, March, but then we'd been working on an idea similar to this for a year and a half before that. So,
Are you from Pittsburgh?
No, I grew up in Maryland. I grew up in farm country.
Farm country in Maryland?
Yeah.
How do you end up here?
My family is from Johnstown and Brookville, which is
kind of deep.
Yeah, pretty deep Western PA.
Yeah.
I went to school at Point Park. Pittsburgh was just always we're all big Steeler fans. We're all big Pirate fans. We'd come to Pittsburgh all the time.
Yeah.
I ended up going to Point Park for 2 years, left, went to LA, and moved back.
So when you were younger, you guys used to come here? Like, that's
yeah.
what you were saying?
Yeah. It would be like almost like a vacation spot, like
Wow.
once a year.
Vacation in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, you know.
I know, yeah, like small little trip, you know what I mean?
We're going to a Steeler game. We're going to a Pirate game. Like, it would be a big deal to go to Pittsburgh.
How far is Johnstown away?
Johnstown's probably about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not too bad. How old are you?
24.
And so, like I said before we started recording, I really don't know any of your history, so I'm pretty fascinated about it because I feel like Bottle Rocket, you know, I saw this like pop up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
All of a sudden I see, you know, a handful of people posting shit on the stories, and definitely sparked my curiosity because like it's a cool looking place. Like,
Yeah, it's pretty unique. I mean, that was the idea for sure. It was like, it is crazy how fast it's grown. Like,
Yeah.
in under a year.
well, I think that you
stuff
do
we're
a good
talking
job
about.
at like whenever I asked you about this, whenever you first hit me up about doing the show, I was like, you said that you try to be the best show in town 6 days a week. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's such like a good tagline.
It's a good motto, and it's like, it's a good motto because it puts pressure on us to, you know, not settle for stuff, if that makes sense. And,
yeah.
you
Consistency is key.
Yeah, and really push ourselves to come up with interesting ideas, and that's why we reach out to someone like you or reach out to someone like Marla. Is, you know, if we just relied on like headliners all the time,
Yeah.
it would never be consistent, or it would never be 6 days a week.
Yeah. I also think that like, you know, it would be harder to gain that sort of community there too if it was just
Definitely.
like big names and
If it was
not
just
like
people that were passing through for a night.
Yeah, because like I was looking through the website and like, you know, there's a whole shitload of people that I definitely don't know.
Yeah.
Like that puppet, you know, I didn't know that was a real thing.
Yeah.
I saw a
Randy,
comedian.
yeah.
I saw a comedian that kind of gets shit online, Brendan Schaub, and people like compare him and say like that this puppet is selling shit out. It's weird, but I thought that was just a joke online, and then I looked at your website and I was like, Jesus, like,
yeah, Randy Feldface is really interesting because he's like an international star. Like, he sells out massive arenas. He's from New Zealand, and he'll sell out huge concert halls in the UK. He's like massive there. But then in America, you know, he'll still play like a 150, 175 cap room like us. So it's like, he's a really interesting dude. He has a really good special. Randy writes a book, and it's like this puppet, like it's a 1 hour special of him trying to write a book.
how long has this been around? Like a long time, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that because
He's got a few specials.
after you posted it, I see you post like a link under it, and I'm like, this is crazy because I honestly thought it was just fake.
Yeah,
but that's cool.
He's
that it
very
happens.
real, and he is like. It's funny because, you know, we get like the artist riders for everything, and we got 2 riders for him, one for the performer and one for the puppet. like
What's on a puppet rider?
It was just like temperature stuff, humidity stuff, like that kind of, you know, it was that kind of stuff. And like, you know, like the set has to be like built in a specific way for him. So
That's very fascinating.
it was an interesting email to get.
I bet it was. Now, let's rewind a little bit to, you know, kind of where this origin story came from. So you said you're from Johnstown, obviously a small town over there.
I grew up in Maryland.
Maryland.
My mom is from Johnstown.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, Maryland, you know, what are you doing growing up? Like, what kind of things are interesting you going through school?
I don't know. I was kind of like erratic in high school. I feel like I didn't have like, I did theater. My dad is a high school theater teacher.
Really?
So yeah.
Were you in like all the plays and
I
stuff?
was in the musicals and the plays until I wasn't.
It's like my biggest regret of anything is to not do theater.
It's interesting because like I was kind of a burnout in high school and middle school. Like middle school, I'm trying to think. I mean, I did like the morning announcements in middle school, and I would like write jokes for them and like do them and, you know, do it like a weekend update, like SNL style thing, which was fun. And then, high school, I did theater. I played basketball all 4 years of high school, but that was mainly just because I was tall.
Yeah.
I never played basketball before high school.
It's 1,000,000% the reason that I played football. You're a big dude,
You're
so
a big
go play
dude.
football.
Get in there, yeah. So, but then like by the end of high school, I was just like, I was a total like burnout. I quit theater. I quit.
do you mean? You're just smoking a bunch of weed?
No, that's a crazy thing. I didn't even smoke weed.
You mean your spiritual burnout?
Yeah, it's just like mentally, I'm just like, none of this matters. Just
Well, as a kid, like you're going through high school and like you're starting to like prepare to like, real life in quotes.
Yeah.
Like what was your idea of what you wanted to do?
I did not have any idea of what I wanted to do. I had like, I knew like I liked comedy, but I was never into it. Like I want to be a comedian. Like, that was never even like a thought.
How did you get introduced to comedy? Like were you watching specials and stuff?
Yeah. When I was growing up, my dad's a very like casually funny person, I feel like. And then I kind of got introduced to stand-up comedy through Steve Martin record. He has like a vinyl record called Let's Get Small. And my grandpa played that for me. And I was like, this is like crazy. It's like so out there and weird in a way.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a meta performance where he's like making fun of the fact that he's doing stand-up comedy the whole time. So
I've never listened to that.
It's like incredible. And it's like very like early 70s. And it's still I guess like Steve Martin like birthed alt comedy with that. And what we do at Bottle Rocket is a lot of alt comedy. So I think that was my like, oh, this is really funny. And even, I can remember like watching Monty Python with my dad, right? And like when you're young, you don't really understand why something is funny.
1,000,000%.
You just like, you see your parents laughing and you're like, oh, that's funny. Like I want to be like that. So that Steve Martin album, I remember I like transcribed the whole album and was like, why is it funny? Like I need to figure out why it's funny.
Yeah.
And I think that was definitely an early thing. I mean, that's when I was in like middle school, but it's crazy because I was never like, I want to be a comedian. I wanted to be a writer. I think I knew, like in middle school and high school, my teachers would be like, you're a really good writer. That's like the one skill that I could hold on to.
Yeah.
But I never
had like an idea fully.
I would have ideas, but I've had like really bad ADHD all growing up. So I was just like very unproductive in general. Right. And I eventually like, I was on at one point like the highest dose of Adderall possible as like a 14-year-old. Like it was crazy.
Dude, I remember in middle school too, like these kids were on like 30 milligram XRs twice a day.
Yeah.
And you're like, what the fuck?
It's crazy. And like, but then somehow, and I don't know how this happened or like why, but like I very consciously got myself off the Adderall. Like I got to the point where I didn't need it anymore. Which I guess like growing up, like I guess maybe your brain chemistry changes and you don't need it.
It's weird, that whole conversation of Adderall and like younger kids on there.
It is, but like I definitely needed it, but it really zapped my personality. So I feel like when I would feel like when I took it, I was just like blank.
Yeah.
Right. Like I had no
autopilot.
Like I had no real interests and but like if I didn't take it, I'd be like bouncing off the walls and I was like class clown, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, high school, I kind of have regrets about it because I didn't really care about anything, especially towards the end. I mean, like senior year, I was on prom court and I didn't go to prom.
That's good stuff. I like that.
But I was just like, whatever, like who cares?
Yeah, you're just there serving time.
Yeah, and it's like, I think growing up especially, it's like, man, I got to get out of this. Like, it's just like total like angsty teenager. Like, I got to get out of this like dead town, right?
Did you live in a small town in Maryland?
It was like a really small like farm town. I mean,
like how many people did you graduate with?
Probably like 100, 200.
Oh, wow.
So it wasn't like super duper small, but it was still like, it was a suburb of a suburb.
Yeah. So it was small enough to not have like a lot going on.
Yeah. Like there were a lot of cornfield parties and a lot of cows.
Yeah. That's 100% how we grew up. We graduated with like a little bit over 200, but like on Friday nights you would go to a field and there'd be a big bonfire. Kids would have a warm case of Keystone Ice and like that would be it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it was. And it was, as soon as I graduated high school, I didn't even have this is how burnt out, like just bad I was in high school. I didn't have a driver's license. And it's not like my parents had a car that they would be willing to let me drive if I got a driver's license.
You just didn't.
I was just like, I don't need that. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
And I really didn't have a plan. So
What happened after you graduated?
I took a gap year between high school and college.
Okay.
Because I knew I didn't want to go to community college, but I also knew I couldn't get into anywhere.
Yeah.
So
What would you even go for anyway?
I have no idea what I thought I wanted to. Growing up, I did have like my big dream was I really wanted to be an Imagineer and work for Disney.
Yeah.
And like in the writing department specifically.
Yeah.
So like, writing rides, writing dialogue, doing that kind of stuff. That was like my dream. And when I was like 9, we did this thing at Disney World. My dad specifically is like a big Disney guy.
Yeah.
Disney adult. But we did like a dinner with an Imagineer. So like like an Imagineer, like and my dad lied about my age to get me into the thing. And then I got there and they were like, this is like 18 plus. And I was like 10.
Yeah.
My dad's like, well, what are you going to do? Like, are you going to like kick him out?
Yeah.
So thankfully they let me they let me stay. And like, that was a very impactful thing because it was really interesting. And it was really like, I think Imagineers are like so creative.
Yeah.
So in like such a physical way where, you're touching their creativity and you're experiencing it. It's like very experiential.
Yeah, for sure.
So I was really into that. And then, at some point I was like, well, my dream school is I want to go to UCLA or I want to go to like Cal Arts and do experiential design, whatever, which is crazy. But I just, I could not get myself to care about school at all, which was like tough for my parents because my dad is a high school teacher. My stepmom is like a elementary school, middle school teacher. So
they're very much like, curriculum oriented.
Yeah. And like my mom was like, she went to college in Johnstown and, like they were all like, very education based.
Yeah. So for you to like kind of like stray from the path, they're like, well, what's going on?
Yeah, literally. And like, especially, I was not even like a good kid, it was just, I know it was frustrating for them because it'd be a lot of like, Chris is really smart, but he doesn't do anything.
He can't focus.
Yes, yeah, like a lot of potential.
That's a classic. A lot of potential in that.
A lot of potential.
Well, what happens after the gap year?
So the gap year is like, so I took like a month-long trip, like a month-long solo trip in that gap year, and I went to Portland, Seattle, and Los Angeles.
And you're 18.
Yeah, I just turned 18. And in Portland, I saw this movie called Don't Think Twice, which is about like an improv team. It's Mike Birbiglia made the movie. Chris Gethard is in it. And I saw that in Portland, and I was like completely by myself for the very first time. Traveling. I'd worked really hard to like go on a month-long trip, staying in hostels and whatever.
Yeah.
Taking the train. And I was like, whoa, like, this is, I didn't even know this world existed. Like I knew improv existed, but
not in that way.
Not in like you think of improv and I was like, well, you could get to Saturday Night Live if you do improv, but that movie's way more about like the people on kind of the margins of comedy, right? And what they end up doing. And I kind of was like, man, I think I'd really like to do movies or like do comedy or, maybe I want to like write movies. And that was very like eye-opening for me. And that was kind of like the first dot connected where I'm like, oh, there's like other paths within comedy other than like being the guy.
Yeah.
So that was super eye-opening. And then my mom moved to Phoenix, Arizona, like as soon as I graduated, and I went with her. So like childhood home is gone in the past and we're just like in Scottsdale restarting our life. And that was like a good move because that was definitely like, okay, I need to actually do something now.
Yeah.
Like
it was like a clean slate.
Yeah. And like you get to a clean slate and, that month-long trip coincided with like all my friends going off to college. And it was very difficult to see literally everyone like having this life experience. And I'm just not.
Yeah. Just can't figure out what you want to do yet.
Yeah. So eventually I was like, well, maybe I want to do film and something. So I made like a short film. My friends like rented camera gear and I was like, okay, I have this movie. I'm going to use this to submit to like film schools.
What was the movie about?
It was like typical teenage bullshit. I think it was about like, it was about a guy and a girl, and like the girl ghosts the guy, and it was just like focused on him. I don't know.
Yeah.
It was like very bad, I'm sure.
Did you end up like submitting at places?
Yeah, well, I used it to get to like submit to film school.
Yeah.
And I don't know why I didn't really submit. I applied to one college, and it was Point Park in Pittsburgh.
Oh, wow.
I had a friend who was going, like my best friend in high school was going to Point Park. Obviously, I really like Pittsburgh. Point Park had like a good acting program, musical theater program.
Made sense.
Yeah, so it was just like whatever, and they had like a 98% acceptance rate.
That's good then.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna apply there. And,
So you get here when you're 19,
yeah.
and you go to school there for 2 years.
I did go to school there for 2 years. Yeah,
And what was your major?
film. I did go
Okay.
for film, and like that was great at points. I went in really excited about it, and I left not.
Why?
I think that there's like film school is like a really interesting thing, especially a film school like Point Park, where you go and it's, you know, I'm like, oh, I want to make movies and I want to do this, and then, you know, it was again, I'm just like, I'm bad at school. Like
Yeah.
I don't care about things that I don't care about.
Yeah.
Like I'm a very passionate person,
Yeah, but you got to figure out.
but I'm passionate about the things that I like.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
So, you know, at Point Park, we started this like college radio show called Radio Somewhere, and it was this like really crazy idea where we were doing like parodies of popular radio formats within this college radio show, and you know, that was like me and my friends, and so I cared so much about that.
Yeah, but
like,
nothing
this
else.
is my outlet, but nothing else. So like I'm like not doing good.
Yeah, that's 100% what I did at CCAC.
Yeah.
Went there, would skip class, and just run a radio show.
Yeah, exactly.
No one was even listening to it. It only
No.
broadcasted in the cafeteria.
My dad like came up for a weekend, and I was like super into the radio stuff. And, you know, my dad was a radio host and he did college radio. So I was like so excited to show him the space. And they're like, yeah, look at this. And my dad's like, you know that you guys aren't broadcasting. And like, you know, we have like 670 AM stickers like everywhere. And I'm like, well, you know, it only broadcasts out of one ear.
Yeah.
My dad's like, well, this is unplugged. So he plugs it in and it's like, oh my God, like both ears are working. This
The
is
whole
crazy.
time.
Literally. And my dad was like, you know, it's online only. Like this isn't, you can't pick it up.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I think it's just because like you're too close to the antenna. And we drove around in the car and he was like, no, like you just can't. The station's not broadcasting. And so we ended up asking Point Park, and they were like, oh yeah, that got disconnected like 10 years ago.
Oh my
But no one
God.
had told the radio station.
That's
so like
hilarious.
for 10 years, everybody's like 670 AM, and you think it's like out on the airwaves, but
Yeah.
it is nowhere.
That's
Literally,
hilarious.
like, yeah. So, but that was really cool, and we got nominated for like these national awards, like best comedy program. We did like an old school radio drama, and that got nominated for a bunch of stuff. And it was like, okay, like this is very gratifying because here's the thing I'm writing, right? It's becoming a thing, and it felt like this is a thing. But
Yeah.
then it's like, no, you have a college radio
Yeah.
show. No, you have a college radio show. So from that, we got asked to make like a sketch television show. Someone at like the college TV station was like, we really want to have a comedy show.
Huh.
And I was like, we could probably do that. And we turned it into this like insane live, like spectacular thing. And it was super chaotic and like very Muppet style. And, you know, it's like, it's a passion thing where just like you get super into it.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is the most important thing in the world. This is the only thing that matters to me. And like, I'm falling asleep in foreign film class. But like this college sketch show is like the coolest shit we've ever done in our lives.
Yeah.
So it's like that was the dichotomy of college for me. It really like I used the resources that were there.
The ones that you wanted.
Yeah, but I didn't care about anything else.
Yeah, which makes sense.
Yeah, and
You can't force yourself to like, you know, young kids, you can't force yourself to like do anything.
Yeah.
You know, I failed out of Slippery Rock right out of high school, went to CCAC, failed out of that. And then
Yeah.
I just didn't, at that point in time, I wasn't ready
to do anything.
Yeah. And then I go to another school and I do great because it's just like, my mind and like me as a person.
Ready.
Yeah. You got to be ready. You got to want to do it.
And I mean, I was not ready at all, but like this other stuff I was super ready for. Like I was attacking it head on and we were like doing this big, huge thing. And eventually that went really, really well the first year. And then we got kind of like on the radar of, like, there's some people at Point Park that are like alumni that have like a comedy background and are like pretty tied in, and they kind of like noticed it. And then the second year we went even bigger. I mean, the second year was crazy. Like we had an office on campus for like our club or whatever, which was just like making comedy stuff. And it's kind of funny. It's like very reminiscent of what Bottle Rocket would turn into, but like we just took over an office. Yeah. And we're just like, this is our office now. And nobody kicked us out.
Well, like what kind of like did you have a live audience?
Yeah. So the sketch show was nuts, where we did it live, but there was like pre-recorded stuff. And the pre-recorded stuff was like happening backstage, but then eventually that would spill out onto the stage in front of the live audience, and like the whole time it's being filmed and broadcast live to like the internet. Yeah. So,
and you guys were getting viewers and shit?
Oh yeah. I mean, the first one we did got like 1,000 viewers.
Wow.
And like we sold out the big theater there. And then the second one we did was like, we sold out the big theater for 3 days. We ran it for 3 days because we wanted to have enough footage. Because the first year, the footage, the live quality was like super unusable. Yeah, because it was like whoever was like in charge of the broadcast, just like did it wrong. Yeah, and it just like came out super laggy and choppy and like literally unwatchable.
Yeah, so you're figuring it out along the way.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, well, let's do it for 3 days and whatever. And we did it for 3 days. And it was, again, like over the top. That is like one of the biggest lessons I think I learned, was trying to like top ourselves. We almost killed ourselves. Like it was we just put so much pressure on ourselves to like be better and be bigger. And we just crumpled under the weight of that. And so much stuff, there was like, now we have like this club and there's like money in the club, and it's like, there was just like a bunch of weird politics going on, not even with us, but like the school, where like the school had like this bigger vision of what we wanted to be, or what like this could turn into, that we didn't understand or get. And like a whole power struggle. Like it was very bizarre, and it was like to me, it was like a disappointment. Like because it just wasn't fun anymore. Yeah. And it's like, that's the whole reason I went and like dove head first into this, was it was really, really fun. And then that had been kind of like sucked out of it.
That makes sense.
Just literally by like a school bureaucracy system, right? They're just, I don't know, just, they didn't want to give us gear anymore. And they didn't, but they also had this much bigger vision of what this could be, where I think they were talking about like building out a major, like a comedy major, which is like a thing that happens at like Emerson in Chicago has a really successful comedy major. Yeah. And that was something that they wanted to do. And they were like, well, maybe this show can be like a pilot program for that. So we're going to build like a class around the show.
So they wanted you to create the structure of it, and then they wanted to,
which
oversee
is like
everything.
Insane, because I was 20.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like a sophomore in college. And I just was like, I just want to make a sketch show. Like, I really don't
want to deal with all the bullshit.
I really don't care about any of it. Like, I don't even like this school. I just like, but it was like, and honestly, like when you're that age, like I think you blow everything out of proportion. Like everything is the worst thing ever, the biggest deal ever, blah, 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 blah. And like,
for sure.
I don't know how much of that ever even was actually true now in retrospect, but like, they definitely were. I did not invent it. You know what I mean? Like it was real, and like everybody else was kind of going through the same process of being. And in retrospect now, it's just like, that was so weird that like, why'd that even happen?
But it's cool that like that was like, a real life experience where you could like kind of gain some good and bad sides of everything. So if you're there for 2 years and then you obviously leave the school.
Yeah. Well, it was like, I was removed from the school.
Oh my goodness.
Like I really did, like, I didn't care about anything other than this sketch show and
Yeah.
this thing. And so I was like failing classes.
Yeah.
And they were like, we think like we're going to put you on an academic probationer. But it was like, basically boiled down to like, they didn't want me involved in that stuff anymore because it was obviously distracting me from class.
Yeah, and they wanted you to focus on that.
Yeah. So I was like, well, no.
Yeah.
And I just left.
So what happens after that?
Well, so through Point Blank, which was their sketch show, the second year, I met this person who was a manager in Los Angeles. And like they represented this, they worked for this alumni who was like a pretty well-connected person.
Yeah.
And I by pure luck, this professor like invited me to this meeting where they wanted to do a comedy festival at Point Park. And again, like going back to like the big comedy plans that they had there. And the professor was like, I think there's someone on campus who like runs a comedy group or something. You should talk to them. So I got to meet this manager. And we had like a really great conversation, and I was really interested in, I knew who her clients were, and she like represented weirder alt comedians. And so we just had like a great conversation and we got along. And so when I got kicked out of school, I basically called her and was like, I've got nothing right now. Like I need if you can give me an internship or something, like,
yeah,
I would really appreciate it. And, that was just like the biggest shot in the dark, like Hail Mary. I mean, if that didn't work, I had literally nothing else to go to. Like that was my one contact. And if I knew, it's funny then, cause like I didn't know, I knew a little bit about like the company she worked for, and like I knew who her clients were, but I was not like, this is a big important person, which now I would, now that I know the full context of like everything, I would never have sent that email. But like to her credit, she was like, I think we can work something out. Like, come out to LA and we'll do it. And,
you just moved to LA?
Yeah.
Wow.
I moved to LA. And
what the hell were you doing out there?
I was an intern.
But what is an intern?
So, I mean, I was reading a lot of scripts.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, hey, but I was also putting together, like the reason they brought me out was to work on the comedy festival that they wanted to do at Point Park.
Yeah.
So like that's what I pitched. I was like, if you still want to do this, like I can be the liaison between Point Park because I know how everything works there and I know everybody, and it's going to take stuff off your plate. So like that's what got me into that.
Yeah.
And then they ended up not doing the comedy festival at all.
Wow.
But yeah, it was just like right place, right time, and I talked to the right person.
So how long were you out there?
A year. I was out there for a year.
And you were an intern the whole time?
Yeah. Towards the end, I was like definitely trying to get into like the assistant. Like,
yeah.
I was an intern, but I was kind of a different intern because I was working on this like bigger project for them. So I got to have a lot of like one-on-one time with, the managers and the higher up people.
Are you going to see comedy out there?
No. I mean, I'm working 40 hours a week at the internship.
Yeah.
And then that's unpaid. And I'm working.
Wait, it was an unpaid internship?
Yeah. And I was working about 40 to 60 hours a week at like a paid job. So
what were you doing out there?
I was a busboy first at a hotel and then at a brewery.
Nice.
Yeah. And it was a very chaotic time in my life, but like I think I only went to one comedy show the whole time I was there.
Yeah, that's
which
wild.
Is like but it was just like,
yeah, you're busy the whole time.
I was putting my head down and working, or I thought I was.
Well, I mean, definitely. I mean, you're probably gaining some experience there for sure.
I mean, and there was definitely like, stuff, this is what a contract looks like. This is what, an agent looks for, a manager does with their day to day. And like, it was cool to be in a big Hollywood office and like, there's Will Ferrell, there's Jim Carrey, there's like the guy that sits across the desk from me wrote the Scott's Tots episode of The Office. And I'm sitting across from him and I talk to him every day. Like that stuff was really, really cool. And it was definitely the type of thing where you think it's your dream job, right? And I'm like, I just want to be in it. I want to be in the industry. Even like, and I remember even like at the timing, like if I can just tell my kids like I did this, I'll be happy, right? But then you ain't like do it, and you're like, this sucks, which I didn't really realize until COVID happened, and COVID just like stopped everything cold. Like the whole industry obviously just shut down completely.
Yeah.
And it gives you like time to reflect and be like, oh, I think I hate it. I think I hate this,
It takes all the love out of like what it is, what the passion of it is. Once you try to figure out a way to maneuver money with it, money muddies the water.
Definitely. And like, I wasn't even really working on that. Like I was not the one who was in the meetings being like, we need more, we need like money, like, and that was never the vibe I got. Like the place I worked was great and I really liked it. And they seemed to care about the clients and everything, but it was more just like, it was the grind of like the networking, right? Where it's like, you got to go to this meeting and you got to meet this guy. And, and it's like 2 weeks later, you got to follow up with him via email and ask him to lunch and then go to coffee. And it's like, no, I'm never going to do that. Yeah. It's like not what I'm wired to do. I'm wired to do like one thing, and it is put on a show. So so to like have to play the whole game, I was just like, I'm not good at this and I'm never going to be. And I was like, technically the school I was going to was like Scottsdale Community College. So like that was on like all my paperwork, like, and we'd have like mixing events, and everybody else in the intern class was UCLA, NYU, USC, UT Austin. And then it's like, this is Chris from Scottsdale Community College. Which was, I just felt out of place the whole time, and I felt like you definitely get that like, I had not been trained on I had not been taught like what coverage is, which is you're at an agency or a management company. Someone's going to be like, I need coverage on this by tonight. And it's like, I'm like, what is coverage?
Yeah. What is that?
It's like when you read a script and then you'll do like your notes on it.
Like a summary about it.
Yeah. You'll do a summary and like your thoughts on it. You'll be like, I think this would be a great project. I think this is a bad project. Which is insane that they leave that up to
like the young. They hope for you to be the coffee
worst
filter.
People,
I see something out of this.
Yeah, and I didn't know what I was doing, honestly, but like I took the opportunity to just like absorb information, right?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
And like I was there more like they had to have a meeting with me to be like, you cannot be in the office as often as you are. Like this is a labor violation. And I was like, well,
you just wanted to be in it.
Yeah. And I told him, I was like, this is literally what I'm here for. Like I have nothing else in my life really that I have going on. So
because you're 21 there?
Yeah, I just turned 21 and I was like, I moved to LA to do this. This is what I am here to do.
I feel like that's like kind of like what you hear whenever you hear about like, comedians that are on podcasts that you listen to now that like started out as like interns and shit. They're just like, I was literally there around the clock, just like trying to be in front of people, get people to know me, like try to network.
Like that's what I was terrible at, was the get people to know me part, because I just like I wanted to be in it and I wanted to absorb the information, but I didn't want anyone to notice me. Like I was, and at that point, like, and I think it came from a place of feeling so out of place. I didn't want anybody to ask me any questions.
Yeah, you're under a microscope.
Yeah, I didn't want anybody to be like, who is that? But the whole time, like, it was super educational. I mean, they had like a massive library of like books and stuff, and I probably stole like 30 to 40 books out of it, which was, and I'd be like, I'm going to take this. And they would be like, nobody cares. Yeah. It was just stuff like that where, and I was definitely absorbing information, and I was, but yeah.
COVID happens and then like you get axed.
It's over, yeah. And like I wasn't kind of on a path, or I hoped I was on the path. There's like a traditional like industry path where like you become an assistant, you work on somebody's desk, like you're writing scripts the whole time, and then one day you go to your boss and you're like, hey, I wrote a script, I'd really love you to read it.
Were you writing scripts?
No. Okay. No, I was working 60 hours at a brewery. Yeah. So, but like, I would have got, if I was an assistant and like that was my job.
Yeah, you were working towards that. Yes. It's like once that started happening, then you were ready. You just had
to get like that foot in the door, and like I had made a good enough impression because I was like, one thing that I always try to be is like really well. I try to be the most well prepared person in the room for like anything, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's from the first meeting that I had with that manager. Like that's what I did. I was just well prepared, and so I did have a good reputation. And I had a reputation for like, I worked really hard, whatever. So like I had meetings with Funny or Die, and like I was gonna maybe go work there, and I had meetings, just with general meetings with a bunch of people,
Just trying to figure out a
trying
place.
to get a foot in the door, like
Yeah.
a paid foot in the door. And it probably would have happened. It was probably like a month away from happening. I had a bunch of stuff I felt really good about. COVID happened. Everybody's like, everything is over. Nothing is going on until we realize, until we figure out what the hell is going on.
Yeah. So what did you do?
Well, at the time I was subletting in a UCLA frat house.
Wow.
So I lived with them for 4 months, just me and 13 other guys.
Wow.
And, I mean, we'd go to the beach. We'd go to Big Sur. We would do like literally anything.
Yeah. Just sticking around.
Yeah. And like, we were all on unemployment. So like, who cared?
Yeah.
School ended. Like there's like UCLA was just like, school is over now. And, yes, it was a lot of like weird introspection and like doing drugs.
Well, how do you end up back here?
Well, I ran out of money and my unemployment took forever to get like approved. So
Yeah.
I was like, I went to them, and it had been a year, and I had kind of gotten done with like the frat stuff. So I was like, okay, it's time to go. And I don't know where I'm going to go. I went to Phoenix for a little bit, and then I was like, I can't do this. Like I already lived here. I just feel like I'm repeating the same thing.
Yeah.
Like what I did, literally exactly what I did before I went to LA.
Yeah.
So I was like, I just need something totally different. Like, and I moved to Johnstown with my grandparents.
Wow.
And I lived there for 9 months, like dead of winter. And I worked at a daycare. I was like changing diapers.
My goodness.
Yeah. I mean, it was like cold water to the face, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, I mean, you're in LA, you're at UCLA, and like at UCLA, it was great because I could sit in on classes. Like I could just walk into classes and nobody would care.
You had some resources that you could use.
So like at UCLA, I like took an Imagineering class, and I would go to it every week. And I told the professor, like, hey, like my UCLA email doesn't work. Can you just use my personal email? And like, she was like, yeah, of course. And so I was just in this class, like doing homework for the class. Like
Wow.
I got a grade in this class, but then she was like, I can't figure out how to submit your grade. And I was like, you'll never see me again.
Yeah.
So like, but then like there I am 6 months later in Johnstown changing a diaper. And I was like,
What am I going to do?
My life is fucked right now.
Yeah.
And I think everybody had that thought during COVID.
For
It's
sure.
like, but I think like people my age who just graduated college or, were coming into the workforce were like, what, like, I don't
like,
have
this
any
is
idea.
Such a
what to
weird
do.
world right now
it's
with
like,
the pandemic.
It's completely weird, especially in the industry I wanted to do, right?
Yeah.
So like in Johnstown, I was interning at another place. I was interning at like New Line Cinema in this like their development department, and it was like all remote.
They have an office in it was a remote.
It was all remote, yeah.
I was like, why the fuck is New Line Cinema in Johnstown?
No. I was the New Line Johnstown office.
So what were you doing for that?
Same thing.
Yeah.
Like script coverage, and that was development, which like that is the money side of the industry where like you read a script and I'd be like, I remember reading this one script that was just like brilliant. And I was like, this is a great, great script. And the boss was like, no, it isn't. It'll never make money. And then I read another script that was like this terrible script. And it was, I don't even know what it was. It was about
Cocaine Bear.
It was about like dog. It was like a talking dog movie, but like the dog said fuck. And I was like,
I saw like, that's what made me like think about that. It's like, as soon as you were talking about, being a young kid reading scripts and like coverage, it's like, how could you even like
shift
anticipate, what that is? Like fucking Cocaine Bear.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like who read that script where they were like, this is really good.
Yeah.
Like this is going to be something.
I mean, the number of people it has to get passed through is crazy.
I know,
like,
it's weird.
There's also like weird politics where like, maybe that script gets hot and now suddenly, or one person says that script is good and now 8 people think it's good.
Yeah.
Right. So it's weird, but like, Yeah, like, and then I read this terrible script about like talking dogs who cursed, and I was like, this script is garbage. And my boss was like, what are you talking about? This is going to be the biggest hit in America if we make this. Like, it's dogs. Everybody loves dogs, and they swear.
Yeah,
like what? That makes money.
That's wild.
So that was the final nail in the coffin where I was just like, I don't want to be in the industry, because before I think my like base instinct is just like doing shows and like putting on a production. I was like, oh, maybe development is going to be really cool because it's like ground zero for that stuff. But yeah, that turned out to be not the case.
So you moved from there.
So in Johnstown, like a few of our, me, Gracie, who's my girlfriend, she lives in Pittsburgh. She'd lived in Pittsburgh the whole time. We went to college together. And then our other friend from school, we were like, we want to do, Pittsburgh doesn't have these comedy acts. I feel like, we could get them. And I, from Mosaic, I had connections where I was like, I feel like this could be a thing.
Yeah.
And so we were like, well, maybe we could it really stemmed from me wanting to put on shows again and not having a place to do it. So I was like, well, maybe we could do this. Like my one friend from school opened a baseball trading card store. And I was like, hey, would you be cool with using your basement? Like, we'll turn it into a theater. And he was like, yeah, that'd be really cool. Like, he did the comedy stuff with us in college. So it was like, okay, we're going to do that. And we're going to go do this thing in a basement. And that's what we were working towards.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say the name of the place, but people that know me know what it is. And that ended up being like a huge mistake. Just like classic, like don't do business with your friends mistake.
Yeah.
Where this, it was not on the level. And it, I was like, Gracie and I poured ourselves into for like a year, and the space never opened. And there was like zoning problems, permitting problems, just stuff that was not being told to us, but like was well known earlier than it should. Because like we were making announcements like, hey, we were booking comedians.
Was this Bottle Rocket? It was
not called Bottle Rocket. No, It was something else. And I'm not going to say the name because he's already threatened to sue me.
Oh my goodness. But so if that all didn't open and you try to, that probably leaves a sour taste in your mouth.
Yeah, it did. I mean, I don't know. Like it left a stubborn taste in my mouth, if that makes sense. Like it didn't open, and then I was like, well, it was kind of weird because it should have opened, and like I did all the groundwork. I mean, we were booking comedians, and like we booked Please Don't Destroy, who's now like huge on Saturday Night Live, and we booked them before Saturday Night Live because I knew them, and I knew them from Mosaic, and I was like, these guys are really, really funny, and they're gonna blow up.
Mosaic was a company you worked for.
Yeah. And then they got Saturday Night Live, and then our venue didn't open. Like our venue could not legally open.
Yeah.
So the show was canceled, and that happened like 2 or 3 times to us. But that was like training where I was like, okay, this is how you structure a deal. This is how you do this. Like that was like very base level training, and it let us get a lot of mistakes out of the way.
Yeah.
But eventually it just got to the point where like, we can't work with this person anymore. Like we don't trust this situation, and we didn't own it, which was like a big part of it too. Like we were and it kind of became obvious that we were never going to, and it was like never going to be our thing.
Are you living here at this time?
Yeah. I'd moved like 2 doors. I'd moved like
right
5
there.
Doors away. So like
My
I was always
goodness.
there. And I mean, that was a space that like I built out myself. Like I put up wood paneling. I built, I did.
You poured everything into it.
Yes. I was like I didn't pour, luckily I didn't pour a ton of money into it.
Yeah. But like time.
Sweat equity for sure. Yeah. And Gracie too, my girlfriend, like we were both there, and, we were like, well, this isn't going to happen. It's funny. I got COVID, and me getting COVID for like the week of Thanksgiving made me again like reevaluate my whole life. But I was just like, I can't do this. We need to do our own thing.
At that point in time, you were like, we need our own spot.
Yes,
I need to be in control.
I don't know why.
Of things.
I don't know why I thought it was possible, but I was like, we are going to open our own spot. Like we're going to do this by ourselves.
Like what's your idea of even like, approaching like a location, approaching like, how you're going to do this? Like, where are you working that you're having funds to be able to do this?
I worked at a hotel. I worked at the front desk. I did not have any money.
Yeah.
And I knew that, but you're just like, I was 23.
Yeah, you're ambitious.
This was like a year ago,
Yeah.
It's crazy to talk about it like it's ancient history. It was like literally a year ago.
I know. It's weird to think about that because I feel like that what you're telling me is like, 5 years ago.
No, this was like a year ago. And
Yeah,
we had no money. I had a business plan that I wrote and I was just like going to
and
places.
it was like the business plan was pretty much what Bottle Rocket
It was
is.
Bottle Rocket, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because the space before did not have a liquor license, so that was kind of not in the business plan at all.
Well, how did you come up to that space?
It was supposed to be a celebrity chef restaurant, a Kevin Sousa restaurant.
Yeah.
And that did not work, but I knew
Obviously.
that the space existed.
Yeah.
And I saw it posted on like Zillow or something, or like I forget what the business version of Zillow
Yeah.
is. And I'd been looking at spaces for like months.
Where else could Bottle Rocket have been?
There was a church in Oakland that we wanted to get. There was, because we weren't looking for a liquor license, we found like really weird spaces.
Yeah, venue spots.
We were looking for like storefronts, like
It's
a
always
storefront on the south side.
It's always so fascinating for me to like ask people like, where could this have been?
Yeah.
And like them to like say like, oh yeah, we were looking in this area, and you're like, damn, that would have been a whole different vibe.
Yeah, like there were two. So it came down to two spaces. Like it came down to the space that we're in now, or a church that was across from the Mad Max in Oakland.
Yeah.
Like it was like a beautiful old church, but it had been like renovated to become a like tech headquarters.
Okay.
And honestly, we probably would have ended up there if the landlord had not changed the zoning to be for an office building. Like it had previously been like a hookah lounge, and if he
wow.
had kept that zoning, we probably would have taken it. But because he did that, it like completely ruled it out because we had such bad experiences with permits and zoning and
Yeah, you just wanted it to be already zoned for that.
Yes. And so I messaged the guy that owns the building now, Joe, and I was like, hey, I've got I know you own this building. I know
Well, what was in there before that?
it was a social club. It was like a
I mean, so I know that there was a social club in
Yeah.
there, but like then Sousa was going to open that restaurant.
Yeah.
But was there anything else in there at that time?
No.
Okay.
It had been empty since 2015, 16.
Oh wow!
Like it had just been, and it hadn't been like renovated or anything since the
it was
70s.
just how it looks now.
Yeah, exactly. And like, our space before was like 70s themed. So I had that baked into the business plan, and I kind of had that nostalgia idea. And I think this is where like I wanted to be an Imagineer growing up.
Yeah.
So like and I took that Imagineering class at UCLA. So like experiential things were what I wanted to do. I wanted to bring that to like a venue.
Well,
right?
why did you want that 70s vibe? Like, because if you walk into Bottle Rocket, it's very much a vibe.
It's
your
very
own
much.
your own vibe, and
Yeah.
it's like I don't know. It's very interesting. It's unique. So how do you even like come into that?
I think the original idea. Well, I just like that stuff. I
Okay,
think that's
yeah.
like the most natural way to come by it. Obviously, the bar, when we toured the bar for the first time, I was like, this is it. Like this, it has the vibe baked in. The wood paneling that I hung before is already up here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, it's baked into. But I think for us, it was like, well, when you think of Pittsburgh, like you think of that
Yeah.
70s era of
Yeah,
Pittsburgh.
your
Like, that
uncle
is
in
the-
a basement drinking an icy light,
that
watching
is
the
the city of
Steelers game.
champions.
Yeah.
Like it's just so much iconography, right?
Old Pirates pennants on the wall.
Yeah, and it's like it was going to be way cooler to create that vibe than to like chase something, and I
Yeah.
felt like it felt really natural for Pittsburgh, and just really natural for. I also think too, like 70s. I love Steve Martin. Like that is where alt comedy kind of started. Was like in the 70s.
That's a good point.
And I like the music from that era. I like the movies. So I was just, I don't know. I think it was kind of subconscious. But the City of Champions thing was definitely like the big thing, where it was like, this works in Pittsburgh. It is Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
My idea of a cool Pittsburgh place is a 70s.
So you hit up your landlord and he's down with it?
I mean, so it took a little bit where we had a meeting, we had several meetings, and it basically, I was like, look, if you can give us half the money, I can find, I'm going to find the rest.
Yeah. Does he take you seriously as a 23-year-old kid?
Yes, to his credit. Yes, from the very first meeting, but again, it's like, it goes back to preparedness. Where I was the most prepared person in the room. And I think initially there was definitely I'm taking this as a courtesy.
Yeah.
But, I was serious about it, and I had numbers, and I had a plan. And I mean, I think another thing was Kevin had gone so bad that it was just ready to take a giant risk, right? It's
I was going to ask you that because obviously, a celebrity chef restaurant that's all high end and shit is different than a social hall that is running, comedy shows.
Yeah, I mean,
so that dude's at the different ends of the spectrum.
I think it's ultimate right place, right time. Where it was just that failed so spectacularly and really, hurt the whole neighborhood to a degree and kind of made it a joke that it was we're going to try something so out of the box, and we're going to do something so radically different. And and we presented a plan. The first time I ever toured the space, he was I was hey, I just toured this building. When I met him for the first time, I was yeah, I just toured blah, 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 1226. And he was great. I love that building. I don't want any hipster bullshit. I'm done with hipster bullshit. And I was well, that's great. Cause to be fair, our plan, where I think a lot of other people seeing that space were we're going to gut this. And this is we're just going to use the building.
Whereas
my plan was as low impact as possible.
Yeah.
And where I think previous, things with them was hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
I came in and was I'm going to build this space out for 50.
Yeah. And you wanted to make what they had there. You wanted to accentuate.
I wanted to build it around it rather than build a new thing.
And what was it? What was the social hall before? What was it called?
It was the St. George Lyceum.
And what? That was just a place that people could go and get a membership?
It was just a neighborhood social club. Yeah, it didn't have any no Elks affiliation.
When was that did that run for a long time?
Yeah, the building opened in 1955. Prior to that, it had been in the basement of a church. And the big church in Allentown is the St. George Vianney.
Oh, okay. So that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So it kind of spun off from that. And it was really big in the 70s, 80s, I think even into the 90s. And then the neighborhood really fell apart, and that was no longer a viable thing. So, but we just came in with an interesting plan that was kind of a shock to the system, which I think they were ready for. And, it's really crazy to think about now in retrospect, where I'm I was 23 years old, and I was give me your liquor license, give me your building, give me your money, and I will not mess it up.
Yeah.
And I don't know how or why I had that. You just have irrational confidence.
Yeah, for sure. You got to fake it till you make it.
Yeah, exactly. And at that point, I had never booked a comedy show in my life.
Yeah, but I feel that, for you to not book a comedy show, you have a pretty wild, diverse resume in that world.
Yeah, that's what I was banking on. And I was I do know this a little bit, but it is fake it till you make it. We were just kind of, we were doing numbers and business plan stuff, but all of it was I think.
Well, how do you come up with Bottle Rocket?
We were really stuck on the name forever because we had a name that we really liked before, but we couldn't use it anymore. So, I really wanted something that was it was youthful, it was nostalgic, it was teenager rebellious thing, and I had picked the name Bottle Rocket. I was Bottle Rocket would be a great name. I mean, it took me literally months, and then one day it just popped in my head. It was Bottle Rocket.
Yeah, and it's once you know it, once you hear it, you know it.
So you would think that. I really liked it. Gracie did not like the name. She liked it, but she was I don't know. I think we may be able to do better. And we had some really terrible ideas.
What's one terrible name that it was going to be?
It was Uncle Bernie's or something.
Oh, okay.
It's just we were going in that angle.
Yeah, I like that vibe.
Yeah. But then we were walking around the strip district, and we went to an antique store, and there was an old Bottle Rocket, literally sitting outside. And that's what hangs above the bar right now. It's there's that Bottle Rocket is above the bar.
Yeah.
And I was that's it. That's the name. That is what
That's the
this
sign.
is a sign that I need. And it was also just things were really getting like high pressure where it's like, is this going to happen?
Yeah.
And, it was one thing to get the investor, but to get the investor, I told them I'm going to find the other half of the money. So then I had to go and do that.
Yeah.
So like, that's when, it looked like it could happen, but it didn't look like it would, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, this is it. And that's, you just find like those little moments sometimes that just like propel you and like give you the energy you need. And that was a big one, was like, it's Bottle Rocket. And I knew I wanted to keep it a social club, right? So then Social Hall just kind of like fell in line behind it.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Because I wanted that like neighborhood community feel.
Yeah. Now, for you to, kind of, you obviously have the business plan, you got the name, what is the extent of like you getting the space ready? Like from the time that he's like, all right, let's do this to the opening day, how long is that?
2 months maybe.
And what all were you doing to like get shit ready?
Well, it's great because they own a construction company.
Yeah.
So a lot of stuff, they could work on.
Yeah.
I mean, like we had to do electrical work. We had to build a draft system. We had to build a cooler. We had to build, I think the cooler might have been there already. Like, but that is what was nice somewhat about the space, was that it had been built out for Kevin loosely.
Yeah.
They didn't build a kitchen or anything, but like they did do like electrical work and stuff like that. And they made a cooler and there was a draft system somewhat. But it was like, we have to build a stage. We have to buy all the decor around the bar. I mean, a lot of it is stuff that was left behind, but a lot of it is stuff that we had to go and find and source. And then that's where like the Imagineering stuff kicked in, where it was like, this is what I want it to look like. I want it to be an experience. And that's like, we're going to get old tube TVs. And now I got to figure out how to get these TVs to work. And now I want to buy a jukebox. And now I got to figure out how to get that to work. It was stuff like that. And, not to mention, like, we need to book a headline. Like, we need to book an act now to show.
Yeah, I mean,
up.
obviously, you're getting the space ready, and like you get it ready, and it looks great, and everything like that. But what is your process in like opening this new venue and trying to approach people to come and perform?
Like from day one, I knew I wanted it to open with Chris Gethard, just because it was like very important to me.
Yeah.
And he does have like a very big following, and he's a big alt comedian. And I we approached it as like, we're going to go get Chris Gethard and we're going to overpay him an insane amount of money to come here and
legitimize it, basically.
Yeah. And basically be like, this is a place. And I was like, I know Chris is well connected, and if it goes well, hopefully he'll tell other comics, and like we'll get the word out that way.
Yeah.
Because we still do that. Like, we're an artist first space, and that's central to our belief. Where it's like, if someone has a good time, they're going to tell somebody, and then when we go and try and get that person, they're going to be like, oh, I've heard you guys are amazing. I want to do it. So that was the big thing with Chris, and we went out and we were like, here's a giant offer. We want him to play this day. He's going to be the grand opening. And
he was into it?
Yeah. I mean, we
made it hard not to.
We made it hard not to be, which was like, it is like, I do, like, I'm so thankful for him, because he usually only does stuff on Fridays and Saturdays, but his Fridays and Saturdays were booked like through the year.
Yeah.
And so I was like, it has to be a Thursday, but like, I found these dates where you're going to Detroit, or you're going to like Michigan right after.
Yeah.
Just stop here on the way. Like, we're going to pay you a ton of money.
Yeah. You made it hard to say no for him.
Yes.
And so how many, he played one day there?
He did 1 day, 2 shows. We sold 300 tickets. Or no, I think we sold like 200 tickets.
Yeah.
Because we didn't even know what the capacity was at that point. And we like flew by the seat of our pants. We didn't even have a liquor license yet. Our liquor license was like being held up in inspections. So we didn't even sell alcohol.
Wow.
Like, we had Kingfly there, Kingfly Spirits, and they were selling liquor.
Oh, okay.
But we could not.
That's smart though.
It was. I mean,
to be able to have it there.
Just to have it.
Now, for you to like have this show and like him come there and like, you to prepare this, did it run smoothly?
It was amazing.
Oh, yeah, okay, great.
It went perfectly. And he put out like a big Instagram post the next day that night that was like, I just played Bottle Rocket in Pittsburgh. this place is amazing. If you're a comedian, you should
that's
you
dope.
should go there. Like, it was exactly what we needed it to be.
Yeah,
you
grease
know?
the wheels when you need to.
Exactly. It was exactly what we needed it to be.
And that right there got your name on the radar.
Yeah, and then, because not even just Chris's post, but it was being able to then take that post to agents.
Yeah, and amplify it and be like, I had him. It went well.
He had a great time.
Had a great time here.
And he publicly posted about what a great time he had. So like it just legitimized us instantly.
Yeah.
Now it was still like uphill sledding for a long time.
For sure.
Especially because, we were doing alt comedy, which is like inherently weirder and harder to sell.
Very weird. Now, let me ask you this. It's very tangential.
Yeah,
You book Chris and he does the performance, but like, do you have other acts booked after that, or do you just have
we had
him?
a lot of local acts.
Okay, yeah.
And we were kind of relying on that. And then,
But before you opened, you like had a book of shows just to like it's not like you did one and you were like scrambling to make shit happen.
No. Like we actually did a pretty good job booking. And,
That's good.
but we didn't have a liquor license, so we just did the Gethard show and then we closed for a month until we got the liquor license back up, and then we reopened. So like stuff moved around a little bit, but from the time we've opened, initially we were only operating on like a three days a week, and we had a show like every single night from the time we opened to today. Like I think we've only not had a show 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. I mean,
best show in town, 6 days a week.
Oh yeah, ideally.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just like, it was really, really wild. And
it's kind of been ripping ever since.
It has like scaled. I mean, there was definitely, it was not going well. And then in October, it was like we hit that critical mass. And it was
why?
like,
What do you mean it's not going well? You're just not selling tickets? You're not getting the word
there.
out?
There's just nobody there.
Why is that, do you think? You just couldn't not like is it people? Because personally, like I feel like I have my thumb on the pulse.
It would be
of what's
like really
going on.
hot and cold. Like we would sell tickets to the big names that you would expect, but it was the other stuff, like the outlying stuff that you're not doing well.
Yeah, to like try to like publicize like these smaller shows that like, obviously if you're going to have Randy Feltface there, people are going to know.
And well, you just have to like get to a level, where it's like you have to get to when people think of, I want to go for a night out, they have to think of your business. And I mean, this is like live entertainment, such a hard thing because you're competing with places that have been around for decades.
For sure.
You're also competing with like the biggest company in the world.
Yeah.
So it's really hard, like especially with what we were doing, where alternative comedy and local music, and I think it's crazy how much our like business has changed. Where we opened it thinking this is a comedy place, and like everything I've talked about so far has been like comedy. When in reality now that's probably like a fourth of our schedule.
Yeah.
It's like it's. Which is like, it's still important, and I think it's still like what makes us Bottle Rocket is doing that stuff. But the dance nights, those blowing up are what like injected life into the business, and like now we're doing a bunch of music stuff, and it's like a whole new angle, and like it's like it's pretty interesting like how we fell into it, and I think part of it is because we'd never done it before, and we had no preconceived notions about like this is how a venue operates, this is how a bar operates, is like. Booking everything in-house is like unheard of, I think. There's only a few places that do it, but the places that do it are like really, really good. You know? I mean, you have to, like, you develop a taste. You get that, like, you get a brand if you are booking in-house, where if you're like relying on outside bookings, you're just taking rental fees. Like literally anything can happen. So, I think that, and we didn't know any better. We were just like, well, we own the space. Of course we would have to book it.
How are you like making this place known to Pittsburgh? Obviously the bigger names is going to get you
the Instagram is the big thing. Like, so we had a plan early on that was like, we're going to try and like with Chris, we're going to try and go get big names so that their audience knows we exist.
Yeah.
And like that did work. Like that was a really solid plan, and it helped like get us out early. And I think also just like how unique it was, got a really strong word of mouth, right? And our Instagram is we're very genuine, and we're very like earnest, and we're very I say all the time, like a venue is inherently a transient business, right? Like it's a transient relationship with a customer because they're coming for the show and then they're leaving, right? And, you know, I don't have like strong feelings about many venues in the world because they're kind of just shell spaces.
That's exactly it.
It's a shell space that a show pops up in.
Yeah.
But because of what we were doing and because our space is so unique, we kind of
wanted to develop that.
We were able to break through that and like very consciously, like we, you know, we wanted to put ourselves behind stuff and be like, we believe in these shows and we think you should come see them because of blank. And, I'm so stoked to announce this person because this is, they were my hero growing up and that kind of thing. And I think that resonates with people is like,
for sure. It adds a layer of authenticity to it.
Yeah. And I think that comes from booking in house and having like everything in house it is real. Like where I'm not going to book a show that I think sucks.
Yeah. And that's fair. I feel like that you're pretty transparent about it. Like, well, from what I've talked to you and like, you could tell that like, you're not going to do what you don't want to do.
Pretty much. And I think artists respect that too. You know, it's like, because if we're going to somebody, we want to work with them.
Well, what happened in October that you said you had a big pop?
So we lined up a week in early October, like the first week of October. It lined up with the New York Comedy Festival. Oh, okay. So there were a lot of people on this side of the country that we were able to like swoop and get.
And how do you approach that? You're hitting up people's managers?
Or I'm hitting up people directly.
Yeah.
At that point, like things really flipped. We had a show with Mitra Johari, and I feel like that was the day that like things really flipped.
Yeah.
Because Mitra, I went out and I got her, and I told her manager like I really want to have Mitra. She happened to be putting a tour together, and we were like her tour was New York, Chicago, LA, Pittsburgh. Like that was the whole tour. So it was just like that legitimized us to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so at that point, like some people started to hit us up, but there was, early in October, we sold out a full week where it was like Monday was sold out or Tuesday was sold out, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, whole week sold out.
Of all different people?
All different shows. Yeah. I think Tuesday and Wednesday were the same show, but everything else was different.
All big name people?
Yeah.
Okay.
But one was like a local musical.
Yeah.
So it was like local people, but but
that week right there, like kind of,
I was like, okay, this is a thing.
Yeah, legitimizes
At that point, I hadn't gotten paid in like, I had to stop paying myself in like July.
Yeah.
So I was like running on.
Please God,
I was running on fumes. I was like, this needs to hit.
Yeah.
I mean, we even had conversations like, we were like, this could be over.
Yeah.
And I think some of that was like learning a business lesson. Where you can't just do what you think is fun.
Yeah.
Which trying to balance that is always hard. But it was we had to put more money in the business, and it was kind of like we're not going to do this again. I was like fully tapped out of favors to ask and anything. So it was like it's now or never. We're back. Our back is against the wall, and we'd only been open like 6 months.
And at this point in 6 months, like you're basically focusing on comedy.
But October it definitely started to pivot, and we definitely did more bands. We did, the movie stuff was really starting to work.
Like, how does that idea come into play? Just like trying to figure out ways to generate more people to come in?
It's literally just like throwing shit at the wall.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think like a mixed use venue is like important to us early on.
For sure. And I don't think that that's a bad thing at all.
No.
Like you saying like throwing shit at the wall is like, you don't even know what your business is yet. You're just like,
we're figuring it out.
Yeah. You're figuring out what people want to be here.
And I think it's like it's interesting when you like get to the reality of it where, we were doing a very specific type of thing, and I think we learned I think what our calendar is really good at now is we appeal to a lot of different things,
it's
right?
very, very diverse.
It's super diverse, and it's like next month or this month, I guess, we have like our Carole King night. That's like local musicians playing Tapestry.
Yeah.
And the next night is like a punk rock show.
Yeah.
And the next night is like a comedy show. So it's like those three things, how do they exist in the same space? But we've built like a space and a community and a brand that like allows those three things to feel right at home.
That's like the template of what I want with this show is like, that's why I don't just like, there's podcasts that just talk about beer. There's podcasts that just talk about like, food or whatever.
Yeah.
I wanted there one week to be like, one day I was driving home and I saw a raccoon, like a big ass raccoon running down the road. And I was like, what if that thing was in my fucking house? Who would I call? put it out on Facebook, and I interviewed this dude, fantastic. And then the next week you have someone who's a funeral director, and then the next week you have Sarah's Candies, and like, you know, I didn't want to like, you know, ostracize one set of people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wanted everyone to feel welcome, and I wanted there to be a reason for people to just listen to everyone. And I mean, if you just focus on just people that rap, you know, you're going to not, you know, you're going to kill,
you're missing people.
Yeah. You're missing people.
And I think, that was like a big lesson to learn is like, we can do a lot. You know, we have a space that can do a lot, that fits a lot of different things.
Yeah, and you got 7 days a week. So, I mean, you know, what was your mindset as far as like, you know, curating for like weekends? At first, were you trying to like put big names for the weekends and like?
Yeah,
you know,
at first it was definitely like, you know, the weekends are for comedy, the weekends are for big names. And really, like, you know, at the beginning, we were just giving days away.
Yeah.
Because our business, and it still is, like, it's crazy because, like, I feel like we have a big following now, but, like, if we were just open as a bar, we would be dead. Like, we'd make no money. We'd make, like, $100 for the whole night.
I mean, I think that makes sense. I mean,
it's where we, like, where we're located, and we're not getting, like, walk-up traffic.
Yeah. Yeah, people are going there for a reason.
They're going there for a reason. So, like, you know, early on with that pressure was like, well, we just gotta we gotta just do stuff. Like, we gotta give these dates away. We gotta do, and now we're getting to the point where like we're way more selective about like, this is a Thursday show.
Did you ever have like any hesitation about the location?
Yeah, well,
I feel like you'd be dumb not to, right?
I felt fine, but everybody we talked to certainly did. I mean,
you're in a unique spot, right next to a police station.
Yeah, I mean, we're in. A lot of people were like, "Why would you go to Allentown? That's never going to work. Like that neighborhood, you can't do anything up there." But I loved the building, and for me, it was all about the building. I mean, that building could be underneath a bridge.
If you build it, they will come.
Yeah, and I would want some. I mean, it just like it has like a very like magical quality to it, to me at least, and I think that connects with people. And there was a factor for me. Because, you know, we had someone who was like kind of, he'd opened a really well-known comedy spot in Philadelphia, and he was kind of on as an advisor. And something he told us early on was like, you know, he cared so much about the location early on, but then he realized after like 5 years, we could be doing these shows under a bridge, and people would show up. And that's kind of like, that was my thought was, okay, yeah, these are shows that people want to see. Yeah, they're going to go and see them.
100%. And I feel like, you know, as a fan, you know, I go to so many comedy shows, and as a fan, I much rather prefer like the more intimate settings.
Yeah.
Like unique, intimate settings, like what you have at Bottle Rocket is like, you know, it doesn't feel, and I don't knock the improv or anything like that, but it's a different feeling going into the improv than going into where you are. You know what I mean?
That's definitely our strength, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And we knew that early on. It's like, we're going to build a completely different type of business, a completely different type of space. I mean, it goes back to like, I wanted to make an experiential environment that you want to sit in, and you want to go early to get a drink there, and you want to stay late to like hang out there.
Look at the walls.
Yes. Yeah. And, you know, like Disney has this theory. It's like in the Haunted Mansion, it's like the dinner party theory, where they want to build stuff that you cannot possibly see everything in one trip.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And so we wanted to do something similar with Bottle Rocket, where it was like, you know, the TVs on the wall play like 70s clips the whole day.
Yeah.
And it's like a 6-hour loop. Like you could sit there for 6 hours and you're not going to see the same clip. And, you know, there's just stuff on the walls. There's all these posters. There's stuff in the bathrooms. Like, not to mention the show itself is like different every single day.
Yeah.
So I think that connected, and it's crazy. It's still like baffling to me that I don't know. I'm still in the phase right now where I'm like, I can't believe that this is my life. Like I you know, in January, like we were doing, I don't even remember. I think it was like, we did an 80s cover band, and it was packed. I think it's like, 180 people were there, and they're all having like a great time, and the band is great. And like the bar is just like really working. And I had the idea, I think I texted Gracie, like, I think it just hit me that like this could be the rest of my life, like, and not in a bad way, but just like we've gotten to the point that like this is a thing, you know, and which is so crazy because 3 months ago it was like back against the wall, you know. But I think I'm very also conscious of the fact that this can be like a hot and cold business, and it's like a business that relies a lot on taste.
Yeah.
Right. And like what you're booking, what you're doing.
Yeah, this is ultimately up to you. You know what I mean? Like with what happens with this business is up to you.
It's terrible. I mean, it's not up to me now because we've gotten to a place where like we can hire people to help.
Yeah,
but it is terrifying. Where like I'm the one that makes the schedule.
That's what I mean. Like this shit is like your input on it and like your taste and like the people that you're surrounding yourself with. Their taste. So it's like and it's cool that like you have that control of it. You know what I mean?
It's like a good and bad thing because it is like it gives you that control over it, but it also gives you the control to fuck it up.
Yeah, for sure.
Where like, if your taste is bad, then it's over.
Yeah. Do you have you booked shows that like, you get no one?
Early on, yeah. We did like a belly dancing night that I think 5 people came to.
Wow.
There was some comedian. We showed a movie with a Q&A, and it was literally me and 2 people. There were more people from the movie than there were to watch the movie.
Wow.
Which was deflating, to say the least. Yeah, I mean, yes, not anymore. I think now we haven't had a super duper slow night in a long time because you just hit that like critical mass.
Yeah.
Like you hit that point where you're like, okay.
It's almost like, self-sustaining kind of. It's like
you hope. I mean, as long as the quality stays up. Like that's the biggest thing for me is like we're really good right now because we've gotten that word out that like if it's at Bottle Rocket, like it's a good show, hopefully.
And now it's your responsibility to like
uphold that.
To uphold that and elevate what you already have a little bit.
Yeah.
And like keep like, incubating what you're building and
Yeah, I think that like that's the next phase of our business is like we want to do a lot more music stuff. We want to do a lot more local stuff. We want to do a lot, keep working, keep finding different weird ideas. I love coming up with ideas. I love like the biggest thrill of my life is like having an idea and then working on it and then seeing 140 people experience it. It's like it is so fun that we get to do that every single day. Even if the idea is like, just like we want to book a comedian. It's like so rewarding to see them perform and like a room full of people is laughing and responding to that.
Enjoying themselves.
Yeah. And like, I think that that's a big responsibility too, is just like people are trusting you with their night out, and as that's not to be taken lightly. So
I know I make myself sick over shit. Like I've thrown a couple events and, I try to be hands on with it because like I want to be like, I want to be the one that's like doing all this because like, are you a control freak?
My girlfriend would say yes.
Yeah.
I think I'm getting a little bit better at it now just because the level of which I was unsustainable for our business, because you do have to like scale.
Yeah.
And the control you can have when you have 100 people a week is very different from the control you can have when you have 350 people a day.
Yeah.
Like you
got to be good enough to give some of that, what's the word? You got to be able to give some of that to other people.
Yeah. And I think that like, we got good at identifying the people that we could trust it with and being like, this is your thing.
Yeah, the people that are good at what they're good at.
Yeah, exactly. Putting the right people in the right spot is the biggest thing. I think that that's also like, as a boss or as a leader, that's like the best reflection of like, are you actually good at this? Because like, if the whole business hinged on me and like, just me, then I'm probably not a very good leader. Or like I'm probably not a very good boss, or I'm probably not good at what I'm doing. You know, I think that the ultimate test of that is like, can other people do a good job within this?
That makes sense.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, so I mean, you guys got a full schedule. I just saw the March calendar, absolutely packed of just I mean, what's like the difficulty of like, you know, moving around them puzzle pieces and like getting them shows? Is it like to the point now where, you know, you got people approaching you to want to do things and, you know, so it's a little bit easier and now it's
easier, but it's also harder because now there is real like quality control that has to go up.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not even quality control. It's like literally dates. Like we have way more offers than we have dates sometimes. And that's not even factoring in the stuff that we want to go do, you know, like, so it's hard for, you know, our shows to feed. It's hard for us to do shows that are like ours now because every, you know, big comedian wants to do a show, and why would we not give a date to them?
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so it's getting really, really packed, which is great, you know, because it means that it's working and that we can legitimately offer the best show in town like 6 nights a week, or the best night out, you know, anytime you want to come. But it's also like, you know, we still have to have room for movies because people really like the movie nights. We still have to have room for weird stuff, you know? So it's like finding that stuff and making sure those have an audience. And, you know, it's all, nothing's done in a vacuum. And the dates all have to like fill in with each other. It's kind of like the puzzle pieces is one thing, but then it's like right now for April, I'd say it's like 80 to 90% done, but I just need to like fill in the little cracks.
Yeah.
And like what fills in this random Tuesday? I need to figure out like what is this Wednesday?
I feel like that would be fun.
It's fun. It's fun when it's working.
Yeah, I guess it's stressful whenever
it's super duper stressful when it's like when it's just like nobody wants this date for whatever reason, or when you're like, oh, I should not have done this. And then like you're staring at it on the calendar for 2 months and just being like, we got to get this. I should not have done this. I should not have done this. I mean, it's very fun for sure. I'm super lucky to do it. It
probably got its peaks and valleys.
Yeah. But it's also like, it's stressful. I mean, I'm 24 years old and like I am still a 24-year-old at times, you know? And it's like, I definitely have peaks and I have valleys, and like, even just being a person, it's tough to be like the person at all times. Yeah. And I feel like especially as we've gotten busier, it's like it really can wear on you of just like that responsibility of like, I need to fill in this schedule. I need to do this. So we started making like moves to bring people in to help do that. But because it's just like at the end of the day, you're a person. You know,
and I'm like, there's only as many hours in a day. You're only one person.
Yeah, I'm only one person, and I'm 24 years old. I'm 24 years old, and I don't really have a ton of experience doing it.
Yeah.
So like, you know, it's tough to be the guy like every single day, which is it's difficult to deal with. But
I mean, it's definitely interesting to like see on my end of it all, because like whenever you reached out to me and you were like, oh, let's do a live show, you know, it definitely got me curious, and I was just like, you know, what is this dude about? You know, what is this place about? And like, I would see Rick there. I would see Rick doing his shows there. And like, I knew that it was like, you know, I knew it was going to be a place, but it's just interesting to hear how all this kind of like unfolds and like, you know, how it all came.
It's like a really fun day to day because you are working. I mean, like Rick is the great example where like we knew from day one we wanted to have Rick Seaback come do a documentary.
Who doesn't want him?
Who doesn't want? Well, it's like you would say that, right? And then we reach out to him, and he's like, nobody's ever asked me that before. I'd love to come.
I know, and that's why it's like, you know, that's why you always just got to fucking shoot your shot.
Yes,
and that's why I'm messaging Rick Seaback and being like, yo, dude, I started this podcast. If you'll be willing, you know, come have a good time.
Do it. Yeah.
And now me and Rick are buddies. You know,
there you go.
Sally Wig and all these people. It's like people get like they get like caught up into thinking that like, you know, I'm not good enough. Yeah. Like I don't want, like, why would anyone want to participate in what I'm doing?
I think that's how we were able to like grow so fast, is we just were DMing comedians.
Yeah, dude, that's all you got to do.
Agents.
People are like, how do you get these people? And I'm like, I send them a message.
You reach out to it.
And if people say no, they say no. It took me 3 years to get Sally Wig.
Yeah.
I messaged her 3 years previously.
Wow.
to when I did it. And granted, COVID happened, but like, you know, it was 3 years.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I'm persistent.
I tell that to the booking team like all the time. Like the people that just started working with us is like, go get the person you want.
Yeah.
Like just go do it. I mean,
dude, I'm a dog.
Yeah. And if you can make the offer and like you can back it up, then they will come. Like it's people want to. And the other thing is like we are independently owned. We are like, we're really passionate about what we're doing, and people respect that and they want to work with people that feel that way.
For sure.
Because that's a big thing too, is like so many comedians are like, this place is amazing. You know, you guys, they can tell. You can, the audience can tell, the comedian, the performers can tell.
Yeah.
Like it is different when it's coming from a passion driven place.
Well, that's what was so weird about like, you know, you were like, let's do a live podcast, you know, find out a guest and like, we'll do a live podcast there. And it immediately, I make myself sick about it because I'm like, who the fuck am I gonna, you know, who's gonna
do it?
Well, it's not even who's gonna do it, but like, who is gonna be a good person to like, you know, bring an audience in to like, you know, that would want to be interested. Because what I do with this podcast is not, you know, it's very long form, you know, not everyone's going to sit down for 2 hours and listen to just a talk. So immediately my wheels start turning on like, what could I do to make this happen? Because I'm very much like you were, I'm going to make some shit happen if I want to make it happen. Like I'm going to figure it out. And, you know, that's why I kind of settled on John because, you know, just like whenever I first approached John and I was like, yo, come and be on my podcast for the first time. And he pulls up to my house with a binder that's fucking literally 3 inches thick. And we have the most insane 3 hour long conversation that I've ever heard in my life. And he didn't even open the binder. And this is just things that he's pulling out of his mind. And what's good about me with me and John's relationship is like, I steer the car where it needs to be steered. You know, like that dude is, you could just set him on autopilot and he can go straight for around the whole world. But it's like, you know, you need to be able to like kind of maneuver him a little bit, keep him like dialed back and everything. And I feel like that's kind of how I came up with wanting to have him on and kind of wanting to not do like necessarily a live podcast, but just like
a different type of
show that's not just like, you know, obviously, we could be funny about shit, but I want people to be able to learn. Like, that's why I do this. I still wanted the show to still add the same type of value that people would get with this. You know, I want people to like learn. Whenever I had that Odd Pittsburgh episode, I had, you know, the craziest response of any episode that I've done because people were like, this is fucking insane. Because it's all stuff
it's interesting.
Well, we all lived here, you know, for our entire lives, a lot of our lives. And like, these are things that no one has any idea of. And you're just like, you know, we know about the story of Hines and everything like that. But do you know about like John Brashear and like Gustav Whitehead and all these people? And you're listening to it, and the fact that this dude is so, you know, he is the epitome of like getting down to the bottom of it, the truth, the proof,
investigating.
You know what I mean? Anyone could just say like, I heard this story one time, but for him to come out with articles from like fucking 1800s, that's what's so cool about it. And that's why I feel like, you know, the show that we're putting on, A City of Innovation, is going to be dope because, you know, it's going to be like, there's going to be a PowerPoint base, there's going to be visual aids, videos, you know, but it's really just a couple of guys still kind of just bullshitting about it and coming up with,
I think too, like
a good rapport.
And I think I told you this when we were talking about the show and you said you wanted to do it with him, is like, I think people really respond to things that people are passionate about, right? Which is like I think that you can attribute a lot of his success to that, and your success too, and our success too, is like, if you're passionate about it and you care and people can tell, they will listen and they will be interested. You know, I think we talk about that a lot now, is like, we really built our brand, for lack of a better word. I like hate saying that, but you know, we're like very like earnest about what we like, and people respond to that because it is like,
it's authentic.
It's authentic, right? And
that's what it is.
People respond to that and they like that and they can tell.
And I think it's dope because like, and I feel like that's what resonates with people to like, you know, to want to listen to a 2 hour long conversation with two random human beings. It's like, if you look, like, I don't have a notebook here. I'm not like someone from the city paper that has like, you know, talking points and questions. It's like, I really am just like, honestly trying to get down to like the nitty gritty of
Super
like
long form,
what
yeah.
this is and like why it is this. And I
Yeah.
feel like that there's definitely like, because I create this for people like me. I'm a podcast fiend like Mark Maron. It's like, there's nothing I want to listen to more than to just hear about with people like, if him interviewing Ray Liotta, like what was he like as a kid? What was it like? I wanted to hear about Ray Liotta's dad owning a tire shop and all that. So it's like, there's certain things that appeal to it, but like if you're passionate about it, it comes through for sure.
It works. Yeah.
I love it. Now for you to, have this business, it's obviously ripping and it's, scheduling is a thing, like what are your goals with all this?
It's funny because this is something that I was just like the Pittsburgh Business Times named me like a 30 under 30 for the year.
What's that about? Pittsburgh Business Times?
Yeah, it's like 30 people under 30.
Well, I know that, but I mean, what's the Pittsburgh? I never even heard of Pittsburgh.
I don't know. It's
Business
like
Times.
it's a business magazine, I guess.
Okay.
And they asked me like, "What's your goal for the next 10 to 15 years?" And my mind just like went blank immediately. It's like we have goals within the business. We want to grow. We have ideas to do that. We have ideas to do other things. I think, we just opened Little Giant, or we just like helped open this, which is like a music rehearsal space. And that's a great space for musicians to use. And we're going to use that to develop some more homegrown shows and stuff like that. And that's like a big part of our long-term vision, but we also want to open a bigger space. And we want to get into touring, like real touring shows and that type of stuff. So I think that like what has helped us succeed is we have a really fluid business that can react and see what's working and respond and see what people like. And
it's a young business, so it's like you're not like set in stone of what it is.
And I think so. There's a lot of different options we could explore, and it's just going to be like what opens, like what door opens, right?
Yeah.
Like
what works, what doesn't.
My whole
work.
thing is always like being prepared, and when the door opens, like you jump through it, right? And I think that we had that with Little Giant, where the space was there, we had the right person to do it, and we took like 2 meetings and it was done, and we signed a lease and it was over. So my specific goals, it's tough too because, and I put this to the Business Times, I was like, 15 years is more than half my life right
I'm
now.
not. Whenever I say like your goals, I don't mean 10 years.
I know. I'm just saying like it is. I'm really bad at visualizing goals.
Well, I feel like that you're already in it. I mean, like you closed down for a couple of days. You're renovating a little bit. You're building out a little bit more.
Yeah.
Upscaling things
now
a little bit more.
Now we're into like a new phase, I feel like, of our business where there is more help. There are more people on board. We're doing a lot more music stuff, which I think is important to me and for like how we want to grow into a bigger space. And I think, I just want to keep having as much fun as I'm having right now.
Yeah.
And like, still be super into these shows. Like as soon as I'm done with this interview with you, I'm going to go back and I'm going to watch the open mic for the rest of the night. And and then, tomorrow's a whole new show and a whole new day. And I really love that part of it. And I really love, but I think as a business, we want to be the best show in town 6 nights a week.
That's good. That's a perfect slogan.
And if that is in Bottle Rocket, that's great. If it's in a different spot that we open, that's great. But like Bottle Rocket is the home, and that's like the engine that makes it go, and that's the community that we've built. So I just want to keep doubling down on like being a great place for people to see a show.
That's fair.
That makes sense.
Yeah, that's good. You think the city of Pittsburgh will respond to a show like I'm going to throw with John?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like we had Depths of Wikipedia there, and there was like kind of, like educational, funny, and it was, people ate it up. Like it was fantastic. And I think there's value. And I told you this too, like I wanted it on the calendar because it was different, right?
Yeah.
Like I can't think of anywhere else that's going to do this type of show.
Yeah, me either.
Which is what I love.
That's why it was weird to approach you. I'm like, I wonder if this dude's even going to like this,
100%.
Yeah, and I'm glad about it because like I feel like it says a lot about you and a lot about your business model, just being willing to see, like you said, throw shit at the wall and see what sticks. Because I mean, I pretty much just like base everything off of me. I'm the most like typical type of consumer.
Yeah.
You know, I'm an easy person to sell. I'm an easy mark.
Yeah.
And like that's something that like I would love to like just experience, like just hearing about the weird shit that people don't know about, like first in this city.
It's like, well, it's always like, and I say this to performers, is like, do what is interesting to you, right?
Yeah.
Like we did that with the sketch show. It was just like, this would be cool for, like, if I saw this, I'd like it.
Yeah.
Even with Bottle Rocket, like if I walked into this bar, I think I'd like it.
Yeah.
So
It's definitely a vibe. I love it up there. All right. Is there anything you think that we did not touch on with Bottle Rocket? We're not done yet, but
just like how, you know, I can say it to the moon and back, but like, we have like a 7-person staff, like 7 people work there, and that's, you know, they're great and they do such a good job, and we would not be doing anything without all of them. You know,
you'd probably lose your mind.
Yeah, and we definitely have like the youngest bar staff in Pittsburgh. I feel like our bar manager is like 25. I think most for a bartender, our median age is probably like 24.
Nothing wrong with a little youth.
No, but
You know what I
it
mean?
is like, I really appreciate them for like how hard they work, and it gets really chaotic and they do a great job. So
Well, that's great.
shout out to them.
Yeah, shout out to them. All right. Do you want to go to the ending segment?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
What's at the end?
Ending segment is a ending segment I do called Desert Island Questions.
Oh, okay. I like the music.
Thanks. Desert Island Questions, whenever I give each guest 3 categories to take with them on a desert island to use until they starve to death and die. First category is 3 movies to take with you on a desert island.
3 movies. All right. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's like 3 hours long.
Yeah.
And it's just a giant vibe.
Yeah.
Waiting for Guffman might be my favorite movie ever. Super funny. I could rewatch it all day.
Who's in it?
It's a Christopher Guest movie, so
I
it's
don't know
like
if I've ever seen it.
it's like people that do theater love it because it's
Yeah.
about like a small town putting on a musical. It's really, really, Eugene Levy is in it. It's like a lot of people like that.
I feel like it's like a fever dream. I feel like it's vaguely familiar.
It is kind of a fever dream. It's like similar to Spinal Tap, which is like one of those 2 movies would make the trip. Third movie,
Spinal Tap.
Oh, dude, Spinal Tap. Like that's one of those movies. Like growing up with watching it with my
Yeah.
dad and being like, "Why is this funny? I
Yeah.
don't know." Like,
One of them nostalgia boosts.
yeah. Third movie, geez, I'm a film major. Oh, Dazed and Confused. It's another just like vibe.
Yeah.
It's a vibe.
Yeah, I could watch it anytime. If it's
Yeah.
on TV, it just stays on.
It just stays on.
Okay. Second category, I usually ask people 3 books, but I want to change this. I want to know who are 3 of your dream acts to book.
3 of my dream acts to book. This is like wild dream. Bruce Springsteen, number 1, like he did a show at the Decade that's still like super famous, and you know he did like a show at the Civic Arena and then showed up to this rock club after, and like
Really?
he did it. Oh yeah, like in the 80s.
You're a big Springsteen guy?
I'm going tomorrow to Columbus to see him.
Oh my good. That's crazy.
I'm a huge
my guest,
Springsteen fan.
my previous guest that I
Yeah.
just had on, they are a mother and daughter podcast from Monroeville.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about this after we're done recording, but the mother was a masseuse, and she was a masseuse at the Burgettstown. So she was the
my
VIP
gosh.
masseuse, and she massaged Bruce Springsteen.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know. And like,
That's sick.
She like opened this conversation because I was like, well, you know, what did you do before this? Because it's
Yeah,
a,
yeah.
you know, it's a lady who's doing a podcast with her daughter. I was like, what the fuck did you do before you did this podcast?
That is very
She was
cool.
like, I was a masseuse. I was working on like the VIP end, and she was like, and her daughter was like, she massaged Bruce Springsteen.
Oh, that's so cool.
I was like, how was he? And she said he was great.
I bet. So yeah, like I would love like a pop-up show.
Okay.
Like, just like
Yeah, just drop in.
Yeah, just a drop-in show. That'd be amazing. Comedy-wise, I mean, Steve Martin is definitely like the A1 just
Yeah.
because he's the guy that got me into it. Chris Gethard was the guy that I would have said, but like we've had him twice. And
Yeah, I
he's,
mean, like-
someone who I've like texted and
Yeah,
like
it's a
had
regular guy
relationship
now.
with.
That's already a regular guy.
And that is what's kind of like crazy is like it is kind of demystified because a lot of these people that I was like, whoa, my God, is now like, oh, I like can talk to them.
Oh yeah, it's weird. I text Sally Wiggin.
Yeah, there you go. Isn't that weird? Like Rick
Sally's
Seaback is
Sally's
another one.
not Chris, but I mean, like, it's just weird to like have a voicemail from her. It's strange. you
Yes,
know? My mother is like, it's strange.
When we had Rick Seaback, my mom was like, I can't believe it.
I
It's
know.
like the biggest day of my life.
It's like we watched your movies in Kennywood. I mean,
Yeah.
we watch your movies in school all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
And you're like, Jesus, you're sitting right here. Got to ride in his car.
Yeah, I think, 1, 2. Okay, that's 2. Third, if we're going comedy, I would say, trying to think like who's even realistic and alive, and like who we could reasonably get that I could work towards. I think it's like the people like Seth Meyers would be amazing.
Yeah, that would be good. Who's the best? What's the best concert you've ever been to, and what is the best comic you've seen?
The best concert I've ever been to. I mean, Bruce Springsteen on Broadway was pretty like religious experience. for
On
me.
Broadway?
I went to see his Broadway show. Yeah,
Never knew.
it's
you
like
had one.
it was like he did it as a one man show. It's on Netflix now. It's pretty good.
Oh, okay.
It's like about his life.
Does he sing?
Yeah, he does. Like he performs his songs throughout it. It's
that's
pretty
cool.
interesting. The best comedian is really tough, obviously, because I've watched so many of them.
Yeah.
And like I kind of break it down into groups where like some comedians are just really, really funny.
Yeah.
And I feel like, but some comedians are just like, especially what we do at Bottle Rocket is like a lot of one person shows. And there was a show called Sorry for Your Loss that Michael Cruz Kane did. That was like, it was about the death of his son. His like infant son passed away.
Wow.
And he built like a 1 hour comedy show about that and kind of like grieving. And it was a show that I saw in New York when I went to go see Springsteen on Broadway, actually.
That's
Same
crazy.
trip. And, he was doing the show. I don't think he was like really focused on the show because he writes for like Stephen Colbert. And then, I hit him up and I was like, I really want to have this show. It's like really important to me that we do this. I really want this. And he was one of the first act. I think he was the first act we booked when we opened. Not the first to perform, but the first like act we booked. And he came out and it was the first time he ever did it outside of New York and like ever did it for an audience. And it was amazing. It was like people were sobbing, people were laughing, and it was just like a real like he's about to do it off Broadway at like a very big theater in New York for like a
That's
run.
wild. Is that like online, a special at all?
No, because
Man.
he's still like he's definitely I think gonna tape it, but like he's about to do a whole Broadway run
Yeah.
with it, which is like
That sounds
insane.
fascinating for
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah, and like it started at Bottle Rocket.
Those are good. Those are good choices.
Thank you.
Third category, 3 CDs.
I'm taking my Springsteen bootleg, the 1978 show at the Passaic Theater in New Jersey.
Okay.
It's like 3 hours long and it like fucking rips.
All right.
I'm gonna take my Steve Martin album, Let's
Yeah.
Get Small, and I'm gonna take The Last Waltz by the band.
Oh, wow.
I could listen to that all day.
Yeah, the movie was wild too.
Yeah.
That's a wild set of choices.
Thank you.
For sure. Wild set of choices. Okay, third to last question is something called the Death Row Meal. So, Death Row Meal is love that, don't you?
That was wild.
Undertaker comes out. Death Row Meal, you get an appetizer, a main course, and a dessert.
Okay, appetizer, I'm going buffalo chicken dip.
Absolutely.
Main course, my dad makes really amazing barbecue. I would say probably his burger. He makes an amazing cheeseburger. With dessert, you said?
Yeah.
My grandma made phenomenal pumpkin pie. I would love to have some of that pumpkin pie again. And what was is that?
Main
is that
course
it?
and a dessert. Yeah.
Oh, okay,
What's
yeah.
your beverage?
Oh, my beverage? I'm probably rocking a cherry Coke.
All right. Love it. Love that.
Yeah, cherry. Or you know what? Bottle Rocket. They just made a new drink that it's like the Jam Sesh or whatever. The bar just made it, and it is fire. So
That's a mixed drink.
yeah, it's a mixed drink.
Okay.
So that would be that.
All right. And then the second to last question, probably the most telling, is if you're getting ready to go on a road trip, you go into a gas station and you get to pick one snack. What is it?
Andy Cap's hot fries.
Oh my God. Man, hot
I had
fries.
that-
It's
I
been
had that
so
ready.
long.
I had that ready because, well, it's like when I was at UCLA and we were just like bumming around Westwood at like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
I would go into the gas station. I would get an Andy Cap's hot fries sweet tart sour. They were like shockers or whatever, which I loved.
Yeah.
And I would get a fountain drink.
Just feels like my stomach started hurting. Just a bunch of acid.
Dude, I've had those three things in like I love this is another, like honestly gas stations. My girlfriend can tell you that like this is 100. I love fountain soda.
Oh, that's the best.
I just love a fountain soda.
There's nothing better.
Good ice cubes.
Yeah.
Oh, it's sick.
A McDonald's Coke.
Anything like I love a gas station fountain soda and an handicap hot fries.
That's that's a good choice. Okay, the last question: if you could have a conversation with anyone alive or dead, who would it be and why?
I would love to have a conversation with. Oh boy, there's a lot of people. I feel like Bill Graham would be amazing. He was a concert producer in like the 70s and 80s, like the concert producer.
Never heard of him.
He produced like The Last Waltz is like presented by Bill Graham. Like he's that guy. And anybody who's anybody played like the Bill Graham theaters and he was the guy.
Okay. That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a real good answer. I think this was a great conversation.
Thank you. I hope it was interesting.
It was interesting.
I hope I said nothing embarrassing.
No. I think it was fascinating to hear about it because, like, you know, as an outsider's point of view, it's like Bottle Rocket has like this allure. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't really know.
I didn't puncture it.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't puncture it. I think you swept off some of the. You swept it. You pulled it out from the bush. It's like Homer coming out of that bush a little bit. I feel like it's good that you kind of like hear a little bit how the sausage is made because, you know, it keeps that allure, but it's also like, you know, it gives you enough information to hear that it's like, you know, what it was. And I feel like your story up to where it is today is like pretty fascinating to hear.
It's definitely been fucking crazy.
Yeah, wild ride. Sounds like a wild ride.
I'm glad to be on this end of the ride right now. Like it's not the end of the ride, but I'm glad to be like on this part of the ride.
You're on one of them downhills right now in a good way. In a good way. Yeah, good way
hopefully,
of downhill.
You never know. But I find a way to like build it back up.
Yeah. I feel like that's what keeps you accountable. You know what I mean? Keeps you on your toes.
And it definitely I hope people like hearing it doesn't break the allure, and I hope that from the outside it looks like we know what we're doing.
I think so too, but I also kind of feel like that it appeals that like I kind of feel that it appeals that like you're kind of just figuring it out
definitely,
too.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of makes it feel like it's like, you know, like I said, that added layer of authenticity.
Well, that's what I said, like, you know, we're people.
Yeah,
we're human beings.
I'm a 24-year-old just trying to figure shit out.
Dude trying to put on a good show that hopefully
with 7 other 20 early 20-year-olds.
Yeah, like we're figuring it out, trying to figure out how to make a drink.
I think it's going well. I'm very excited for the show. Me and John are talking about it. Yeah, we're gonna meet this weekend and get some details hammered out.
Very cool. Everything you've told me about it is I'm super stoked on.
Oh, it's gonna be wild. I've been working on some other shit too.
Oh, no,
I'm about to drop another flyer. You know, it's gonna be good for sure.
I'm psyched.
But take a second, tell everyone where they could find everything, the address, you know, the website, everything.
Yeah. It is Bottle Rocket PGH everywhere. Instagram is definitely the biggest thing for us. It's the most updated info, bottlerocketpgh.com, has all the tickets, has all the upcoming shows, has all of the like information. And I'm Chris Copen. So
that's your last name, Copen?
Yeah, Copen. So you can hit me up.
I didn't know what your last name was.
Yeah, there you go. Well, that's me. I mean, please don't contact me. I don't want to say that. It's just like, you know.
So, like, do you take submissions for shows? What's the best way for people to like pitch a show to you?
Booking at bottlerocketpgh.com. We read all of them. We don't respond to all of them because we do get a lot. So we can't respond to all of them, but we do read all of them, and we have pulled shows out of that pile that then become a thing. So.
How did you even hear about me? Like, what made you reach out to me?
I think I saw a sticker for your podcast on the side of the hot dog shop.
Oh, the Brighton hot dog shop.
The Brighton hot dog shop.
Wow.
It was like in the drive-thru, and I was
you already know it's still riding there.
That's a cool sticker. But that was like before we opened Bottle Rocket. Like that was months and months, maybe a year ago. I was like, oh, cool sticker. Like I looked it up. I was like, oh, look at that. Like Sally Wiggin was on this podcast. This is very cool. I think I started following the podcast then. I was listening to the podcast, and
that's cool to hear.
Yeah, that's it.
The stickers, man. That
This,
gives
dude,
you
the power of a good sticker. Look, our guy George here is like half the marketing of Bottle Rocket is just tied to how cool this dude looks.
yeah, disco ball with an old pill
Pirate's
bottle hat.
Yeah, you get it. You look at this and you're like, I know what that place is.
Yeah,
and I
they're
would
just there
like
for
to
a
go
good
there.
time. It reminds me of a fucking one of them red, white, and blue popsicles.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
exactly.
You guys need to have them on deck at there.
We don't have a we do have a freezer now. All right,
Yeah.
We're gonna figure it out.
Yeah, make that
for the
happen.
4th of July. We do the bicentennial party. We do like a 1976 bicentennial party.
Oh, wow.
And I mean, we've done it once. It sounds like it's some historic.
All
thing.
I hear is like the soundtrack to the Sandlot playing in the background.
Literally, and it's really fun. And last year we did a drink with Pop Rocks.
Oh,
where it was
wow.
like red, white, and blue, and then it had Pop Rock rim. It was sick. This year, I do think an icicle, like a Red Rocket Pop, would be phenomenal. If we could figure out a way to put alcohol in it.
See, those are the only type of ideas I have are good ones. Everyone else that's listening, I'm throwing a show with John Sholkowski of Odd Pittsburgh, March 31st at Bottle Rocket. What's the address up there?
It is 1226 Arlington Avenue, and it is between two police parking lots.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. If you don't know, it's going to be a city of innovation. Me and John are going to talk about all the wild shit that has been innovated in the city of Pittsburgh. Everything from the Big Mac to the Mr. Yuck sticker, aluminum. You can't even imagine the shit that we're going to talk about. Tickets are available right now, bottlerocketpgh.com.
It's $10, is that right?
$10.
There you go.
$10.
That's a deal.
That's a fucking deal. I had my buddy reached out to me because like I threw some events in the past,
Yeah.
and they were at breweries, so like the price had to be up because
Yeah,
you're getting
yeah.
3 beers.
Yeah, yeah.
He was like $10. He was like, you can't beat that with a fucking stick.
No.
And I'm like, let's go, baby.
I don't think we've ever had a ticket more than $20 so far.
Dude, I mean, that's the key though. And I feel like that's what's so good because like I asked you, I asked you, you're obviously the professional in quotes, like what would be a good price point for
Yeah,
this?
yeah.
And you said that you just, it really like sets the tone of the show. If
Yeah.
people are paying a crazy amount of money, they have high expectations.
I think too, like, you talked earlier about the improv, like something we talked about super early on in our business was we're not going to have a drink minimum.
Yeah.
And that alone, like,
Dude, it
opened
kills
the
you.
world. It
Yeah,
opened
because
the
I don't
world
even
up.
fucking drink.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What am I doing there?
Yeah,
it's crazy.
exactly. So-
But everyone else, grab some tickets right now. They're flying off the shelves. BottleRocketPGH.com, show tab, scroll all the way down to March 31st. Grab yours now. Ticket links are in my bio. But I appreciate it. Each and every week, we're back with another great guest doing great things in our city. Thank you for listening. Call you right back.